Right. So in the last session, we are just understanding what is something called level of significance and what we meant by test statistic. So today we are going to discuss more about the test statistic and the level of significance and something what is called the standard error. So all those details will be discussed today. And I hope that there is no doubt regarding the null hypothesis and the alternate hypothesis. So even if you have some doubts regarding this one about the H0 and H1, once we start hitting some problems, it will be more clear to each and every one. So wait till that point of time. So yeah. So today the very first thing is how to evaluate, how to get these critical values, that is the Z alphas from the statistical tables. So this is very important. So without this one, we cannot conclude any of the problems in the sampling area and in the statistic course. Okay. So as it is mentioned, Z suffix alpha. So alpha is represents the level of significance. That is where you should be very careful. For example, that actually decides the critical values. For example, you consider that let alpha is equal to or that alpha is equal to 0.05. As I am repeating again, alpha belongs to 0, 1. Alpha is a number which lies between in the interval 0, 1. Okay, but mostly it is towards the 0 only mostly, but we will see it. So alpha is equal to 0.05. That is 5% level of significance. 5% level of significance. So how to basically evaluate this one? Okay. For example, it depends on the test statistic. Remember here the test statistic we have mentioned now. There is that one. Yeah, the test statistic we have mentioned now. So it depends on this test statistic and which distribution it follows. For example, mostly in many of the cases, the test statistic generally follows the standard normal distribution. Okay, but in maybe we will come across some other distribution where the test statistic follows other distributions, not the standard normal distributions. So this, but the concept is same. That is where you should understand here. Okay. For example, here, if the test statistic follows the set of standard normal distribution 0, 1. Okay. So assume that this is the curve, the basic curve. So alpha is equal to 0.05, which means we need to obtain the critical values Z alpha, and it is an even function, so obviously minus Z alpha, such that the probability of modulus of Z is bigger than this Z alpha is equal to alpha, that is equal to 0.05, which is same as, mute yourself, Mr. Akash Jaladula, mute yourself. Okay, so which is same as the probability of mod Z less than or equal to Z alpha is equal to 1 minus alpha. 1 minus alpha means that is 0.95. Since as you know that this is nothing but the probability of, it is nothing but 2 times, since here we have this condition. This is what standard the test statistic follows the standard normal distribution. So this value is nothing but 2 times 0 is less than or equal to 2 times 0 is less than or equal to Z is less than or equal to Z alpha, where Z alpha is a positive number, is equal to 0.95. So basically you need to get the statistical value Z alpha from the table which satisfies probability of 0 is less than, Z is less than or equal to, or Z alpha is equal to 0.95 upon 2. So that will be 0.475. Am I right? 0.95 divided by 2. So 0.475. Now, could you please open the statistical table and look at the standard normal distribution table? And can you give me for what Z alpha we will be getting this value? No need to inform, for all the sections, you should open the statistical tables along, okay, before the class itself. May I know what is the value from the table? .475. Where it is coming? No answers yet. No answers yet. Yes, Adina, thank you. That's correct. So as you can see from the table, for Z alpha is equal to 1.96, you will get this value. In fact, you will get exact value 0.475 for Z alpha is equal to 1.96. As you can also remember, when for alpha is equal to 0.05, which is nothing but the 5% level of significance, Z alpha value is 1.96. Z alpha is equal to 1.96. Okay. Particularly when the test statistic follows the standard normal distribution. Remember that is very important. Okay, it is not true for all the distributions. It is true for the test statistic which follows the standard normal distribution. Remember that. Okay. So basically, what actually we will be getting from minus 1.96 to 1.96, it will be occupying the 95%. That is nothing but 0.95. Whereas the remaining 0.05 will be split into two parts, 0.05 by 2. So what will happen here? This area will be 0.025. Am I right? I think so. And this area will be 0.025. Altogether, it will be equal to 1. The area is equal to 1. Okay. It is for the, remember that it is for the two-tailed test. Both the sets were excluded. It is a two-tailed test. In most of the cases, we are going to work with the two-tailed test only. One-tailed tests are very rarely we are going to solve some problems, but I will explain in one how to solve, how to get the critical values from the table. Okay, but before that, let me conclude even for some more things. For example, alpha is equal to, let me make it clear, 0.01. 0.01 means what? Basically 1% level of significance. 1% level of significance. Again, we are using the two-tailed test. We are assuming that the test statistic follows the standard normal distribution. Then in this case, what are the critical values? What is Z alpha? That is what we are going to evaluate. Okay. Again, the same thing. Again, it is also the same thing. The concept is same. The concept is what? The probability of the test statistical value less than the critical value, should bigger than the critical value should be equal to 0.01. So obviously, which is same as the probability of mod Z is less than or equal to Z alpha. Obviously, 1 minus 0.01. 1 minus 0.01 means 0.99. So since it is an even function, both the sets and the test statistical value also gives something like 0 is less than Z is less than or equal to Z alpha is equal to 0.99 means 4, 9, and 0.4, 19 means 9, 1 means 0.5. Right? Now, in this case, can you get the value, critical value from the table for which Z alpha? The table gives 0.4905. Can you give me the value from the table? .345. That's absolutely nearby. That is, yeah, Avino. Nearby has done cleverly, actually. Nearby has seen the table and he has seen 0.4 is there and 0.6 is there. So he has taken the average of the value. So Nearby has done it cleverly. So that is 0.345. You can take it. Ram Prasad also. Abhinav, you are also correct. Okay. So for Z alpha is equal to what is that one? 0. Not 0 point. It should be something around 2.345. 2.345. You can take. So similarly, this is how you should get the critical values from the table. Okay. Now coming to the case of one-tail test. One-tail test also the process is same. One-tail test also the process is same. Okay. The only thing is in one-tail test we are going to look at only particularly for one-tail test. Alpha is equal to 0.05. Level of that is nothing but the 5% level of significance. Okay. Now, how to get it? How to get the critical values? How to get the critical values? Okay. So one-tail test. So mostly, I'm considering probability of Z is bigger than Z alpha is equal to Z is bigger than Z alpha is equal to alpha. Alpha is nothing but 0.05. Okay. So one tail test, that too, this one is what? This is a right tail test. Okay. But the process is same for the any, whether it is one tail or right tail or any. Now you look at this one, probability of Z is bigger than Z alpha is equal to 0.05. Now, but which is actually same as, okay. Now, obviously, can anyone tell Z alpha locates whether on the positive side or on the negative side? Can anyone? Depending on this condition, where Z is a Z, the test statistic Z follows the standard normal distribution. Can anyone tell me? The Z alpha, the value of Z alpha locates whether it is on the positive side or it is on the negative side? Comments, please. Be active in the class. You are not just here to just to listen the class. You are here to participate. Any idea? Suppose if Z alpha is here, then what will happen? Z is bigger than Z alpha, entire thing. You should count it. This entire area is equal to 0.05. No, right? Then obviously, where it should be located? It has to be located on the right hand side, on the positive side. This area, what we want, this area we want to be 0.05. Earlier, we have in the two-tailed test, we have divided the 0.05 in two parts. Why? Because there is a two-tailed test. So together, this area and on the left-hand side also, you should together it should be 0.05. But now it is simply 0.05 on this side. So now it has to, but according to the table, according to our convenience, we need to remodify this equation. So what it will be? It will be probability of z is less than z alpha, less than or equal to z alpha, is equal to 0.95. Okay, fine. And then z is equal to z alpha means from here to here it is 0.95. Okay. So, but we already know from here to here it is 1/2. So the probability of 1/2 plus probability of 0 is less than z is less than or equal to z alpha is equal to 0.95. And hence probability of 0 is less than z is less than z alpha is equal to 0.45. Now can anyone give me the z alpha from the statistical table? We have remodified into this format only because the statistical table allow us to get only these values only from 0 to some positive number. Because of that reason only we have to remodify it. Okay, can anyone give me the value? Can anyone give me this value, z alpha value from the statistical table for which the area is 0.45? Are we now? Yeah, right. So z alpha is equal to 1.645. So it is for one tail test and the critical level of 5% level of significance. That is alpha is equal to 0.05. This is the critical value when the test statistic follows the standard normal distribution. Whatever the normal distribution it is, the concept is same. This is what you need to understand. Okay. That is about the how to get the critical values. Okay. So let me tell you the yesterday section, the last section and this section, we are just preparing ourselves to do the actual problems. So far we are just thinking what are the we are just accumulating all the tools that are required, okay, to hit some very practical problems. Remember that. Yeah. Yeah. Now coming to the coming to what? Even in the left tail test also the concept is same. So you do you can get it by reading some test books. Okay. Now there we have something what we call standard error in every test statistic. So that standard error we need to, and what is the standard error and what is the corresponding test statistic? What are the different problems that we will come across, and what are the corresponding standard error and what is the corresponding test statistics? Okay, so this is what we need to understand more clearly here. So the very first thing is whatever the definitions or whatever the standard errors I'm giving now, all those standard errors are only applicable for large samples, not for small samples. Okay, remember that. It is very important. Only for large samples. Only for large samples. Okay. Why? Because there might be a problem which involving the large samples, or which involve and a problem which if the same problem is we are doing with the small samples, there is a difference in the standard error. You have to understand that. Okay, it is not same for all the samples. For large samples, we have certain kind of formulation, and for the small samples, we have another kind of formulation. That is what we should make we should understand the difference. Okay, so the very first thing, now So now let me tell you, let me give you the table first, and let me explain one by one. Okay. So the serial number, let me write it, and the second one is actually test of significance. Significance of difference between what and what. Okay. Now, what is the corresponding standard error? And what is the corresponding test statistic we should apply? This is very important. Okay. So the test statistic generally we represent with Z. So the very first thing, it is the difference between the, there may be some situations where we need to evaluate whether the difference between the sample mean and the population mean, whether is there any significant difference or there is no significant difference. So that is between sample mean. Sample mean generally represents with X bar, and population mean. Population mean generally represented with mu. Okay. So in this case, the standard error is the standard deviation upon the square root of n. This one we have already seen, right? And the corresponding test statistic is X bar minus mu upon sigma upon root n. This one we have already seen while discussing about in the central limit theorem. Okay. Now, the second one. This one also we have seen. Testing the significance to find the difference between the significant difference between the two samples. Sample 1, first sample. Let me represent with the X1 bar. And the second sample. Let me represent with the X2 bar. So in this case, what is the standard error? So the standard error is defaultly it is sigma 1 square upon n1 plus sigma 2 square upon n2. And the test statistic is X1 bar minus X2 bar upon the square root of sigma 1 square upon n1 plus sigma 2 square upon n2. Okay. Now what is n1 and what is n2? N1 is the first sample size and n2 is the second sample size. Okay. And what is sigma 1 square and what is sigma 2 square? Sigma 1 square is the variance of the population from which the first sample has been taken, and sigma 2 is the variance of the population from which the second sample has been taken. I think these things you understood it, right? I don't think it should be explained separately. It should be written separately. Now the third one. The third one is interestingly, it is something called sample proportion and population proportion. I will explain this one. Sample proportion generally represented with a small p, and population proportion generally represented with capital P. Okay. So this is the standard deviation is the standard error is capital P times 1 minus capital P upon n, and the test statistic is the small p minus capital P upon the standard error. Capital P times 1 minus capital P upon n. So this is where in this third situations where we are finding the whether is there any significant difference between the sample proportion and the population proportion. Okay. And the fourth one. Fourth one is it is the same thing but with two samples. That is first sample proportion. It may represent with small p1 and second sample proportion. Let me represent with small p2. Okay. So in this case, what is the standard error? The standard error is given to be capital P1 times 1 minus capital P1. Some textbooks used to write capital Q1. Okay. And make a note of it. This is the small p1. I think better to write make a difference. Okay. This is capital P1 minus 1 minus capital P1 upon N1 plus capital P2 times 1 minus P2 upon N2. And the corresponding test statistic is difference between the proportions, the smaller proportion. So that is small p1 minus small p2 upon the standard error. Means that this entire thing. This is the standard error. It will consider. Okay. Now what about the N1 and N2? N1 and N2 are the sizes of the first sample and N2 is the size of the second sample. Okay. Here P1 means the proportion of success. It generally relates to the Bernoulli trials. I will explain. Okay. Now the fifth one. To find the difference between the significant difference between the sample standard deviation and population standard deviation. Sample standard deviation generally represented with small s and population standard deviation generally represented with sigma. This one you are familiar with this. Here the standard error is sigma upon square root of 2n. And the test statistic will be small s minus sigma upon the standard error. Standard error means again here sigma upon square root of 2n. Okay. And the sixth one is also of the same category, but difference between the two samples. That is first sample standard deviation. Let me represent with S1 and second sample standard deviation. Let me represent with S2. So in this case, what is the corresponding standard error? Corresponding standard error is sigma 1 square upon 2 times n1 plus sigma 2 square upon 2 times n2, where n1 and n2 are the size of the first and second samples respectively. Sigma 1 square and sigma 2 square are the variances of the samples from which population variances from which the samples have been taken respectively. So the corresponding test statistic is the difference between the sample standard deviation. So S1 minus S2 upon the standard error, the corresponding standard error. That is sigma 1 square upon 2 times n1 plus sigma 2 square upon 2 times n2. So these are the general statistics, test statistics that will encounter come across. Now, I don't think there is a problem for the first and second. For the first and second, we have already come across. Let me explain what is the situation of third and fourth. Okay. It relates to the generally Bernoulli trials, where the capital P represents the proportion of success rates of some particular statistics. Obviously, 1 minus capital P1 represents the against the success rates, means the statistic got failed. Okay. Sometimes instead of giving in terms of the probability, there will be many situations where you used to give in terms of the proportion, right? For example, the very trivial example. There is a company which manufactures some equipment, some products. Okay. So what I know, there is a company which manufactures a number of products. Okay. Manufacturing company, and certain product it manufactures, right? Now, what I know about the mean and variance or the standard deviation for this population. So this is what we call the population. So the population mean will be known, and the corresponding standard deviation or the variance is also known to us. Okay. Now, they have been stated like this one. So our company produces the mean and the variance like this. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. We thought of giving in terms of proportion, right? So yeah. We thought of giving in terms of the proportional, right? This one represents the actually case 1 and case 2. Okay, but that has been already explained. I don't want to waste the time. So this one, what you take, it is a city. This is a particular city. In this city, out of 200, 110 like two-wheelers, out of 200. So what is this? Is a proportion. Now what is here success? A person, if you pick up a random person, the success means that the person liking to a two-wheeler. Okay. So what is the proportion? The small, it is a capital P. Capital P is 110 upon 200. 110 upon 200. So this is the success ratio. Okay. Now, I do not know about this city, but someone has stating like this. This is the hypothesis given to us. Now, how can I give the justification? Whether should I accept this ratio or should I not accept this ratio? Okay. If some manufacturing company comes and if they would like to establish some company near to this city, so obviously they will be thinking about the selling possibilities and all, right? So in that case, how to get this ratio, how to accept this ratio. So in that case, I will be selecting a random region or maybe a random sample of some few people, where I come to know that some 58 like two-wheelers, 58 persons like two-wheelers out of 100. Out of 100. So now what? This is a sample. These 100 people are taken from this sample. Okay. So now the capital small p is 58 upon 100. So this is what? This is the proportion of the sample. This is the proportion of the population. Okay. Now, what I would be interested in finding the difference between the sample proportion and the population proportion. I would like to know whether is there any significant difference. If it is a significant difference, I should not accept this proportion, right? Okay. So depending on that one, we should do this one. So to find the difference, whether is there any significant difference between the sample proportion and the population proportion. And the question is same when if you are going with some another sample S1, S2, size N1, size N2, number of successful. So basically here you will be getting the proportion proportion 1 P1, and here you will be getting proportion P2. Now you would like to discuss whether is there any significant difference between P1 and P2. Okay, so that is the another situation. P1 difference P2. Whether is it significant or not? Okay, it is not simply okay. We will do P1 minus P2, P1 minus P2. It is not like something like that. It should be normalized with some factor. That is what we call normalized with some standard error. So what is that standard error? The standard error formulas are given in this table here, like this one. Okay. So these things are very important for the next couple of sections, in fact. So before that, I would like to it is and regarding the samples, regarding the standard deviation also, the concept is same. Okay, but let me tell you here, these are the actual things, but sometimes sometimes we do not know what is the population variances. In those situations, we need to approximate from the samples and replace the sigma 1 square and sigma 2 square. For example, here sigma is the population standard deviation. That may not be known to us. Only we may be knowing only population mean, but the population standard deviation, if you do not know, in this situation, what we have to do. Similarly, here also. Similarly, if the population proportion is not known, in that case, what we have to do? Okay. So all those things can be approximated with some formulas and these formulas are also will be helpful only in the case of large samples, but not for the small samples. But for the small samples, we have another things that will come after 2 sections. Okay. So approximation of or approximation for population standard deviations. Okay. The first case, sample versus population. And one thing regarding the sample, we should have all the data. Regarding the sample, we should have all the data. Standard deviation, variance. Sample means a finite collection for which we can evaluate, we can do the process thoroughly. Okay. But for the population, which is a very large, huge, so that may not be the case where we can evaluate each and every statistic. So there it comes to something called approximation values. So in the case of one sample and versus the population, the approximation for the standard deviation of the population is approximated with the standard deviation of the sample. And the third one, sample versus sample. Two samples, between two samples. between two samples. Okay, between two samples. In addition, if some information is given, both samples have drawn from population with same standard deviation. So this is first sample versus second sample between the two samples. And in this case, an additional information is given to us, that is sigma 1 square is equal to sigma 2 square, that is nothing but sigma square. In this case, what is the approximation that we should consider? So in this case, we should consider the approximation, that is sigma square is basically equal to n1 times s1 square plus n2 times s2 square upon n1 plus n. Now there is a third situation where this is also sample versus sample, but if the information is given to us like that they are they have drawn from with different populations with different standard deviations. In this case, the standard deviation, what is called the sigma square, sigma 1 square. If you look at here, it will come here. So with different populations, then sigma 1 square is approximated with s1 square and sigma 2 square is approximated with s2 square. Okay, so that is sample versus sample. Sample versus sample means where is this one, first sample and second sample. Look at this one, sigma 1 square upon n1 square plus sigma 2 square upon n2, right? So if the population, if we know that two samples have drawn from the different with populations with the different standard deviations, then sigma 1 square has to be approximated with the first sample standard deviation. Yeah, and the sigma 2 has to be approximated with the second sample standard deviation, that is smallest. Okay, so this is about some approximations that will be required for the couple of next sections. So that's all. I think I have covered all the tools that are required to go for the actual problems. So before that, I will explain the procedure also today. I have just 5 more minutes are there, so I will explain the procedure also today, so that tomorrow we can solve number of problems. Okay, there are something called error types. What are the error types? First one is type 1 error. What is type 1 error? As we have mentioned, we will be defining with the test statistic and the null hypothesis and the alternate hypothesis, null hypothesis and the alternate hypothesis. So based on the conclusions, based on the critical values, we need to give a conclusion whether to accept the null hypothesis or whether to reject the null hypothesis. So that is what. So there may be some errors will definitely be there depending on the problem, depending on the some while collecting the data. If someone has done a mistake, there will be always a possibility of getting some error. Type 1 error generally represents rejecting the null hypothesis, when it is true. When it is true. That means basically in the practical way, what we are going to in the practical way, what is the statement, what would be the practical way of type 1 error? That is example, rejecting a electric equipment or whatever it is, or in short, some consignment when it is in a good condition. When it is in a very good condition. Now you tell me at this point, basically it is a matter of only two people. One is manufacturer and the another one is customer. Now the type 1 error, who will be in the loss? Whether customer is in the loss or the manufacturer is in the loss? Can someone tell? Rejecting a consignment when it is in a good condition, who will be in loss? Manufacturer or customer? No comments. Rejecting a consignment when it is in a good condition means it is a loss to the manufacturer, right? So this is what generally we call the producer or the manufacturer risk. Now, type 2 means accepting null hypothesis when it is false. Accepting a null hypothesis when it is false means accepting or purchasing a consignment when it is not in a good condition. Now, in this case, who will be in the risk? It is the customer or the consumer. Customer or the consumer's risk. Okay. So there may be two different errors might be possible. First thing, there may be no error. If there is any error, two different errors are possible. One is type 1 error and type 2 error. So they are classified into two different things. What is the manufacturer risk and the other one is the consumer's risk. Okay. Now, what is the process of giving the conclusions for all these things? So that is what it will be explained in steps. Procedure for testing of hypothesis. The very first one. Once you understood the problem, once you understand the problem, once you have come across the problem, first you read it carefully, and then immediately what you should define? Immediately you should define the very first thing, define H naught. define H naught. And the second thing, once it is done, define alternate hypothesis, that is H1. Now, while defining the alternate hypothesis, you should decide whether it is two-tailed test is required or one-tailed. If it is already given to you, there is no problem. If it is not given to you, we need to identify it. If it is one-tailed test, again we need to think about whether it is left or right. Okay. And the third one, level of significance. Level of significance, that is alpha. Mostly it will be given to you. Mostly it will be given to you, but what you should get it with the help of the level of significance. You should get the critical values, obtain the critical values. Mostly it is given. But with the help of this level of significance, what you should get it? Obtain the critical values. And the fourth one, evaluate the required test statistic. Evaluate the required test statistic. Okay. What is the test statistic formula? So Z is equal to so on. So we have so many lists are there now. So that is what we should, depending on the problem, we should write it. Now, compute the test statistical values. Mod Z. This is what we call the test statistic values. I'll just take 2 more minutes. In between, I cannot stop it. Now, after computing from the test statistic values, there we need to do the comparison. So, what is the comparison? Comparison if the test statistic values is less than the critical values, implies accept H naught. Accept H naught. There is nothing to say, that is H1 is rejected. H1 is rejected for the given level of significance. Okay. If you change the level of significance, the acceptance and the rejection will maybe change. Okay. That is something like practically, okay, I may be confident at 70%, but I may not be confident at 90%. Okay, it is something like that. And the other one, suppose if the test statistical values is bigger than or equal to also we can consider, not a problem. Z alpha, that is critical values. Critical values implies reject H naught. Reject the null hypothesis. Obviously, rejecting the null hypothesis means obviously what is that one? Accepting H1, accepting the alternate hypothesis. Means H1 is accepted for the given level of significance. H1 is accepted for the given level of significance. What is actually we are accepting the H0? What actually it means? It means there is no significant difference between sample versus sample or sample versus population, like that. Okay. Or there is no significant difference between the means of the sample mean and the population mean. First sample mean and the second sample mean. So those things. We are rejecting the H0 means, yes, there is a significant difference. There is a significant difference between the same thing. Sample mean versus population mean. Here also, that depends on the problem. Okay. So this is about the due process in the testing of hypothesis. So from tomorrow we are going to solve problems. We have already covered most of the theory that is required. If you have any doubts, you are most welcome to ask. Thank you all.